Tech Team Weekly. This show may contain mature language and themes.
Hello and welcome to Tech Team Weekly. It is so amazing to have you all here. Thank you very much for joining us. With us today, we have our amazing co-host. Well, my amazing co-host, although I guess we're all co-hosts. But anyway, we have Sanj, incredible developer. Hey, Sanj, it's amazing to have you. How are you?
Thank you, Gwen. Great to be here. I'm doing very well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Cheers. Yeah,
cool.
I'm good.
Good.
Neil, it's... Well, a lot better than, I'm like, it feels good to say like, yes, I'm good. So yeah, anyway, distractions. Neil, our amazing tester. Hey Neil, it's ace to have you.
Hello. Delighted to co-host with you and the world. I think there's always a natural, it's always hard to judge how you feel when we start doing one of these recordings because we're just energized to be around each other. So we're like, yeah, we feel great. Yeah. And then we look back and go, actually, there's other stuff going on, which we'll get into in the stand-up, I guess.
Yeah, totally. And hey, my name is Gwen Diagram. I am the engineering manager. And yeah, we are Tech Team Weekly. So our show today, we have, what do we have? So we've got the stand-up, of course. Always a stand-up. Then we've got social engineering, where we have our feedback from social media. We have building in public, so our podcast-driven development section. And then we have our epic, which is staying power, how to thrive in the Great Resignation if you don't want to quit. And coming up for our next two shows, we have two very special shows. So the next one is the stand-up special. So we would absolutely love to hear from you, our audience. So please send in your updates. They can be either text or you can also record a video
voice
or a
message.
Voice message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll make sure we pop a link in whatever we do on Twitter and LinkedIn, I guess.
Brilliant. Okay. So yeah, we'd absolutely love to hear from you. So get in contact. And the final one is our retro. And then we're going to be off for 6 weeks, but we'll be back on the 24th of January. Neil is excited.
Thank Christ. Saturday morning's back.
So yeah, welcome to Tech Team Weekly. Great to have you here.
The stand-up.
So for my stand-up update this week, there's not a lot of work things to report. I was on holiday for 3 days in the week just gone, having family come and visit, which was awesome. And on the side, also dealing with a bit of stuff around my dearly departed father's estate. Lots of throwing large amounts of money around and having to ring banks and asking them to increase limits for things so that things can be moved to the right place. It's just hard work, but these things need to be done. On a more positive note, I'm doing a talk that I mentioned before this coming Thursday at the Ministry of Testing, Cambridge. Completed the slides this week. Really, really happy with them. One of my favourite slide decks I've done in a long time. It's all around how we've been working during the pandemic and looking at what the world's going to be like going forward. So you may have seen I tweeted a screen cap of one of the slides. It's all done in the style of the government coronavirus slide decks. You know, the ones that hold the whole Chris Whitty next slide, please kind of things. It's quite a cool little deck, so that's nice. I annoyingly got something right last week where I predicted there was something weird going on with Netflix and Star Trek Discovery. There was an announcement made 2 days before the episode was coming out that Netflix had lost the rights to Paramount Plus, as I thought they had. I got some kudos online for being the first in the world to notice this was going on. But yeah, that's a shame. So anyone who wants to watch Star Trek in the next 6 months has to pirate it. Won't say whether or not I'm trying to do that and whether I can't find a good stream yet. Carrying on my themes from previous episodes, my Pixel 6. Google had finally released the new Pixel stand to fast charge the Pixel 6, and it's £70, which is a bit more than I would like to pay just to charge my phone slightly quicker. But also I'm a sucker for new things, so I've got it. There's still like a 3-week lag on delivery, but we'll see if it's makes the tea for me as well. Maybe that'd be nice. And I have got some big news that I've been dangling for a while. I'm going to keep you dangling 1 week more. Gwen mentioned at the start we're doing the stand-up special next week. So the whole episode is going to be a stand-up, which gives us a bit more room to do this rather than rushing through it. So expect something interesting from me next week if you haven't already heard it.
In my update, work's going good. I've been working on, so I'm working, at Sky. I work on Now TV, which, I quite like as a product. And I've been working on this bug for a little while. It's a very edge case kind of thing, but it's coming to a satisfying conclusion soon. So that's very rewarding. They're opening up booster jabs, COVID booster jabs, the third shot for 40 and overs. So that'll be on by the time you hear this, it'll be today, Monday, the 22nd. So I'll be getting mine. Battlefield 2042 was released. I got it free with my graphics card. I haven't even installed it yet. I'm not really particularly inspired to play it. Doesn't look that great, but I might. Of course, in the UK, over the last week or so, there's been a big row brewing, or a big happening over racism with Azim Rafiq, exposing institutionalized racism in cricket, and now thousands more people are coming forward, not only in cricket, football, and like other areas. This is something I'm really glad this is getting a little bit more of an airing, because it's always like people are either just not taken seriously or just it's swept under the rug. November the 18th was a special day. This is last Thursday. It was the day that marks the point where women stop getting paid as much as men, basically. So because of the gender pay gap, I really messed up that explanation there, but because of the gender pay gap from November 18th for the last 6 weeks of the year, women on average will be working for free compared to their male counterparts.
Great.
That's interesting. I wonder how it's like the doomsday clock, like the 5 minutes to midnight thing. I wonder whether this is like later than it has been before. I mean, it should be December 31st, right? But I wonder whether it used to be August, September, and it's heading in the right direction, maybe. But it's really good that we highlight this, because it's when you phrase it like that, it's just not acceptable.
No.
It's I really like what Iceland did to close the gender pay gap. They went on strike, like all the women went on strike for ages, didn't they? Yeah, it's a really fun story. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, not cool. Shit. But yeah, onto my stand-up. So I'm back at work. I'm now on the senior management team. So I had my first introduction to the senior management team on Wednesday. And it was a training session on EOS, which is Entrepreneurial Operating System. I had really low expectations, but it was actually really good. There was a really good facilitator for the session, and like, it all makes sense as a way to run small companies. So yeah, I was like, I'm actually quite into this. Surprise. It's really interesting, like going outside of engineering and working at a higher level, like considering things across the business instead of just within engineering. I've been on multiple engineering leadership teams, but not business level like before. So yeah, like really digging it so far. And good news, it's like half women, which like I take as a really big
That's
win.
Great.
Yeah. However, it's entirely white. So yeah, like you win some, you lose some. Outside of work, my partner and I finished a game called It Takes Two, which is a couch co-op game. It was like really, really awesome. Really recommend playing it with your partner if you've got one, or friend or whatever. Loved it. And then I spent a lot of time like last week being angry going to garden centers because I need stuff like for gardening, and it is all Christmas stuff. So yeah, that made me very angry. So yeah, next week, lots of strategy stuff at work, and yeah, meeting a friend tomorrow, my old Scrum Master, which will be good fun.
Awesome. I like this. I wish I could follow you around those garden centers.
Oh my God.
It would have been quite entertaining.
So the first one, like massive garden center, like in Leeds called Tong Garden Center, might be in Bradford actually. But it was so packed. And like everyone looking for Christmas stuff made me feel really anxious. And then I went to another one to get stuff that I needed, and there was hardly anyone there. I'm just like, what is going on? But yeah, I won't be doing that again for a while. Well, I need to, but yeah, after Christmas.
Yeah, I'm the kind of person who does Christmas in one day. I literally have it booked in my calendar, taken off work. I will get Christmas done that day with whatever was there. I'm not saying it's going to be like a petrol station forecourts, but I'll have a plan of attack, I'll execute, and we'll be done.
I like your style.
Do you know what we're doing? I'm sure both of you might be doing this as well. Like, we're doing a work Secret Santa. Should we do a Secret Santa, like the three of us?
I would like that a lot. That is genius. Yes.
Right, let's take that offline.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be the odd numbers is going to make it difficult unless we each get something for both other people.
We could do that, or one person, like we'll just do it like a three-way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, we'll randomly figure it out.
I think I know what you mean. Yeah. Let's not phrase it like that. Let's not leave that bit in.
A suitable for work three-way. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah.
Social engineering.
So we've had some really great feedback from listeners again this week. Thank you for everyone who's been in touch. We had a comment from Kev when Sandra was talking about Genshin Impact, video game. He wanted to highlight, as he should do, the fact that there's been some controversy around the game because the game makers have been censoring certain semi-political words and phrases from the game in-game chat, something which a lot of Chinese games are guilty of, but it's not good when this sort of thing happens. Weirdly, there's been some stuff on Peloton and censorship recently as well, where they've been censoring certain semi-political phrases. I hadn't heard of the phrase "Let's go Brandon" before this week. I don't know if you're aware of the phenomenon of "Let's go Brandon."
No.
It's hilarious. There was a NASCAR race, and basically the crowd, which obviously, I mean, you can imagine the sort of crowd that NASCAR gets, during the post-race presentation were chanting "Fuck Joe Biden," and the commentator decided to try and brush it off because the race had been won by someone called Brandon, and so he said, "Oh, the crowd, they're all chanting, let's go Brandon." So, no, that's not what they're saying. But yeah, the phrase "let's go Brandon" has now become like a rallying call for anyone who's anti-Biden, and Peloton has started censoring it. So that's been fun.
Wow.
Anyway, yeah, this sort of thing never good when companies and politics start to overlap in ways that they shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
We had some nice comments from Jesper on the subject of work-life balance. He highlights the fact that Portugal is one of a number of countries in Europe, making a law at the moment, meaning that companies can't contact their employees after office hours. This is something that comes up in my presentation this week, actually. It's called the right to disconnect. That's really positive. Obviously, I don't know what Brexit is going to mean in terms of the UK getting that. I would love to see it come in as a standard thing, but we shall see. Lee Hawkins was talking on the subject of complexity and saying that as an industry, we're always prone to adopting shiny new tech. And actually, it takes an amount of deliberate effort to keep things simple. And sometimes when you're seen to be trying to keep things simple, that can be seen as a contrarian point of view. You're sounding like you're not interested in the new tech, or you're not on board with it. And it's actually really difficult and challenging to take a stand to keep things simple. On the related subject, we had a comment from Coney Money who said, "Can we have a discussion around large legacy systems and observability and tribal knowledge?" And that's a really tough thing to break down.
I do like the talk about legacy systems. So Michael Feathers, his book on legacy code is amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
No one likes legacy code, right?
It depends on, well, there's the whole thing of what classes code as legacy, isn't there? I think Michael Feathers says it's code without tests. Is that right?
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, I've had some really tough systems I've worked on where we've tried to replace an old system, which is actually the current system, with a new system. And the new system has taken 1.5 to 2 years to put in place. It's like, actually, if we left the old system in place, sure, it was a pain to support in places, but also it worked and it didn't eat up 2 years of our time.
Yeah.
But hey-ho.
This... So I really like the strangler pattern. I think people are trying to call it something other than the strangler pattern, but the strangler pattern is based on the strangler figs in Australia. And Martin Fowler deemed it the strangler pattern for that. But it's basically like you grow around the software and break parts out instead of just fucking rewriting the software. I absolutely love talking about this topic, so I think we might need to talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. This will be a good one for the new year. That's very interesting. I hadn't heard of the strangler pattern before.
It's great.
Awesome. We know what our first show is going to be then.
That's January sorted, yeah. On the subject of asking for listener shout-outs, we had a comment from Maribel, who works for a company called Aria, who are a company that combine natural language generation and data analytics. She says they're always on the lookout for good people, and they're advertising several remote marketing roles at the moment, and they're running some upcoming webinars as well. So I'll put a link in the episode description to their website, and I'll put Maribel's full name in there as well. So, if you wanted to get in touch with her on LinkedIn, have a word about the roles they've got coming up, I'm sure she'll be delighted. Then we're on to podcast-driven development. What's going on with our stats, Sanj?
Yeah, not a whole lot to report. I mean, we're still ticking along. The only thing that's kind of breaking the mold is Anchor. It's traditionally it's one of our, it's lower than YouTube, but it's kind of increasing at a a more rapid pace. And that's really about all there is to report. I had some interesting facts regarding our demographic, which I could share with people very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Please.
So this describes who you, the audience, are. So according to our podcast analytics, 73% of you are in the UK, 10% are in the US, and we even have listeners as far afield as Thailand, Cambodia, and Bolivia.
Awesome.
You are currently 79% male, but that was closer to 50-50 in the very early days. So we started skewing for some reason to male. The age range is 23 to 60, but 57% of you are 35 to 44. And on YouTube, there's not much analytics reported yet because our audience figures aren't big enough for them to start reporting to us. But only 26% UK on YouTube, oddly enough.
Interesting.
I wonder why. I guess it's to do with how the platform shares, how it recommends videos to people. And again, the fact that Anchor is going up at a nice rate probably means that with our things like our iTunes feeds and stuff, or Apple Podcasts, are starting to get pushed out to people. And again, maybe we're appealing on recommendations.
Yeah, possibly.
It's always nice to welcome. Maybe this is your first episode. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
This week's epic.
This week's epic. So this week, the Guardian's Zoe Williams covered a story on how to survive the Great Resignation if you don't want to quit. There's nearly 1.2 million jobs open in the most recent quarter, so if you want a new role, the world is your oyster. However, what if you don't want a new role and you don't actually want to quit your job? So there's a few questions around this. So why is it that your colleagues quitting around you can make you reconsider your position? So Zoe spoke to 4 experts to get their advice on this. On the top of whether you should quit, one of the experts, on the topic of whether you should quit, one of the experts, Rafiq, who is a digital anthropologist, asks, is the work still satisfying or not? You can be sad that colleagues are leaving, but if you're burned out, unmotivated, depressed, uninspired, identify the root cause. Are you overworked, or have you realized that there is something else that excites you? Good questions for those who are having fear of missing out from those who have quit. Studies have shown that the most productive people in a workplace are the ones who find work the most enjoyable. So you aren't doing anyone any favors if you stay in a role that you actually hate. So in regards to getting landed with a bunch of extra work from those who quit, Redman, who is a work and organizational psychologist, suggests running a role creep audit. So look at your original role. Perhaps you've picked up more work over the pandemic and ask, how far have I crept? Then actually go and spell it out for your employer as well. So here's what I was hired to do. Here's how my time is allocated now. So either we need to reprioritize or we need to allocate some of my work. And then the next question is, how do you compete when you're an old hand and there are suddenly a sea of new faces? So O'Riordan said that really badly. An executive coach advises to make sure you're at the center of restructuring efforts rather than trying to resist. It's a really good opportunity to argue for a promotion, and she advises to take advantage of the void. It's a great time to get rid of bad habits that were accepted as a team. Redman has some great advice here as well. So you might find that your stance and your role are changing, but don't have an identity crisis about it. You are still you. So there's more fantastic quotes from the article. I'd really suggest reading it. The main takeaway, though, is ask yourself why you're feeling the way you are, like the fear of missing out or like sadness, and take advantage of the new world if you can and negotiate wisely. There's a lot in the article about negotiations as well. So this is really interesting. There's loads of people quitting all around here at the moment, I think. And so I remember my first role in software engineering, I'd worked there for 4.5 years, and I hadn't really considered how to get a role outside of it until a load of my friends started quitting, and they were telling us how much more money they were getting at other jobs. And I was like, what am I doing here? I'm a mug. So I remember it was a like quite a long time ago, but some of the developers were on like 26,000 and like going contracting for 350 a day and stuff like that. And it's like, what the fuck are we doing here? Yeah.
The contracting comparison isn't a fair one to make because, you know, you'll probably double your pay, really, if you just go contracting.
Totally. People were getting like 10 grand pay rises and stuff like that. So I left and I was on 20 and a half there, and I moved to 25 and a half, which I mean, like, is still shit. But I was really struggling to afford to eat at the time and stuff like that because I'd gone through a separation from my husband and stuff like that. And so, yeah, it was just like my world has changed and now I am shit poor. Like, I can't afford to work here anymore.
Yeah, I'm someone who falls completely on the wrong side of this argument. I'm not someone who can advocate for staying, as I'm someone who historically has left. I went through a really weird phase in the early part of my career where there were 3 organizations that I left in a row where within maybe 2 or 3 months of me leaving, there were mass redundancies at those companies. Like, I had a sense things weren't going well, so I left, and then things didn't go well. And then I weirdly, despite all this going on, I've never picked up a redundancy payment in my life. There was one company I even left. I was going through a redundancy process at the time, and the only way that I could have stayed at that company or got redundancy money would have involved competing someone else out of a job. And I was like, this is not right. I'm walking away from this. So I'm like allergic to doing the right thing, it seems. It's really interesting to hear all those different statements from people in the article. Certainly the one around role creep. I could certainly attest to that when I was at Money Supermarket. We were going through a big phase where there were lots of people leaving. This was pre-COVID. So there was a very good reason for it. At the time, the company had moved most of its development staff to the new office in Manchester, many of whom were based on the Welsh border. So lots of people were being, asked to come into Manchester and commute in there. And there was quite a long period of, consultation with them. A lot of people chose not to stay for obvious reasons. The impact on me personally, as you say, it didn't make me less happy about the work I was doing. It meant there was more of it. And the more of it was falling to me, of course, because there were a few people around. At the time, the biggest challenge was I was a test lead with some people under me, and that number was dwindling. And what I had was I was working across 4 different squads, all of whom wanted some test input from a tester. But those 4 squads, I had 3 testers to split between them. And at times, I was one of them as well. So it was like the only way I can make all of these teams happy is by overworking myself. And there was no good way out of that at the time. Finding the other side, people were just saying, it is what it is. We need to get through it. And no one was really willing to answer why. And so for me, there were other options available. But how do you get over that period and go, we're just going to power through this and stay?
So it's really important that someone can show you the path for the future. If there isn't a clear path for the future, then why should you stay? I completely agree. And it's one of the roles of a leader to say, okay, these things are happening. It's not the easiest at the moment. People are quitting, whatever, but we have a plan, and this is how the future is going to look. This is how it's going to look better. If you as a leader don't have the plan, you've got problems.
I think that plan has to come from up high, because one of the challenges that I was seeing was the fact that, at the start of the year or the start of the quarter, we'd committed as a company to doing certain things. And now when X percentage of your tech team leaves during that period, you cannot possibly be expected to achieve those same goals, because they were done with certain estimates in mind. We did get to a point there where there was an acknowledgement that we were going to have to scale back some things because we just could not do them. But again, that has to be led by leaders. That sounds like a really obvious thing to say.
Yeah. And you'll need to talk to people to find it. Has to be a group effort of leaders and outside of engineering as well, I think. Yeah.
This topic, the Great Resignation, kind of hasn't gone away, has it? It's just been growing and growing. I've seen it mentioned more and more articles are talking about it. I see it on Twitter. I see it on Reddit. And and I think they also call it the Big Quit. Mm-hmm. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen that a couple of times as well.
It sounds like a film. I'm thinking of The Big Sick. But
Big Sick. But it is. one of the really difficult things for people who stay on is now onboarding new people, right? Because there could be the pressures of delivering things, and like you're losing old mates, and now they're bringing in new people. You're trying to buy into this vision for the future, and you're trying to be a part of in the center of restructuring efforts. It's a lot to take in, right?
I always say when someone I'm really close to leaves, I shouldn't fall so in love with people that I work with. And I never learn. And I think that you just need to learn that people leave, and it's okay to have your heart broken I don't know, it's about once a year really, isn't it? Either you leave or whatever, or someone you work with really closely leaves. And
and for the most part, when people leave, they're leaving because they're going on to something that is better for them. So there is, to an extent, you can be happy for them. And I think when you've worked for long enough, you know that people come and go, and you do gain an acceptance that this happens. And jobs aren't for life these days, certainly not compared to what they used to be, and particularly in tech. But it's just a part of the world. It's when it happens in volume, when you have an exodus that has a name to it. This is kind of unprecedented.
But, these people, I left, I resigned, and, I'm back in the workforce now. And I know other people who have also taken breaks or, moved to other roles and, might be going back to their old roles or coming back into the job market. So it's going to go around. People are just taking a break, I think.
Yeah, totally. The past couple of years has been so exhausting, hasn't it, in the strangest way. And people need a change. You're inside the same four walls a lot of the time, how we live in our bloody offices, don't we? And so it's you need a change.
Yeah, and I've got my son who's now fast approaching 2, and I don't know where the time is going. I genuinely, I mentioned a lot of finance things at the start in the stand-up. I'm in a position where, I could afford to take some months off if I wanted to, and just, I'd be burning through some money that I got saved away, but I could spend some more time with my son. And I've given it very, very, very hard considerations as to whether I wanted to do that or not. But, he is here 4 days a week. So just make the most of it while he's here.
So my partner, he's finishing his contract at the end of the year, and he's having some time off to do training and just do different things. It's one of the massive perks around contracting that you can have time off like that, which is really good.
It is easier for contractors. I would say one of the things that I thought against doing it was I don't like having a gap on your CV. I think it's relatively easy to explain away, and I think people are more understanding of that sort of thing today. If someone asked me, why did you have 3-4 months off between those roles, I would be very happy to tell them. Obviously, I'm not actually doing that, but
Yeah.
That gap is a very real thing. So I had an 18-month gap, and prior to that, my CV would open 99% of doors, and then when I went back into the job market, it was more 50-50, I was getting so many people just ignoring me, not getting back to me. And I was like, but I'm way too good for this role. And, and I think it was the gap that, people who were open to hearing about it, it was fine. And, I've gone back to a team that I worked with before, so they know why I left and they know why I'm coming back and they know what the gap's about, but it definitely makes a difference.
Wow. That's really interesting. Cause I've not been through that before. That might be interesting to talk about as well.
Yeah.
I don't want to dwell on the parental thing, because I know that women, suffer a lot in the workplace because of that, but the very fact that maternity leave is an accepted thing, and if you explain away a gap because you are mothering a child, us dads don't get that much of a break. Obviously there are paternity leave and shared parental leave in the UK now, which is great, but if I were to say I wanted to take 6 months off just to be with my new son, that's not really a thing that's really very well recognized in the market at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
No. It varies from culture and organization to organization, right? Some would be very happy and okay with that, right? But then I can think of some that would raise an eyebrow.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it when I see people on LinkedIn sharing those. I know there's a lot of Facebook style posts on LinkedIn that give LinkedIn a bad rap sometimes, but when it's people saying, no, look, I've made these working arrangements work for me and my company is supporting me, I always remember the names of those companies that are supportive of that.
Definitely. I think increasing paternity leave is a real feminist issue as well. So men need to be able to take time off. So women don't need to have as much time off. And I'm a really I really try and push that paternity leave is like implemented like over and beyond what is currently expected, because it works out for both men and women. Like, yeah.
I got very lightly because my paternity leave started on the first day of the first lockdown. So like I'm at home effectively for a year rather than the month that I had allocated.
That's ace. So we had a quote from Beth Marshall, which we haven't heard from ages. So it's lovely to hear from you again, Beth. So Beth has said, this resonated big time with me, both on the people leaving work front, and also seeing community folk who have done similar things to you, leveraging that success to get new jobs or promotions, etc. I think it's brilliant to see that all that hard work pays off. But it makes me wonder if I'm mugging myself off a bit, just doing things for free without a personal end goal. I think being aware of what else is out there is healthy, because it's made me realize the grass isn't greener. And certainly in the market being what it is, allows me to be more upfront about what I want, and also trying new things like user research, doing some BA type work. Ultimately, it's a flexible, trusting workplace where I can be myself and knowing that I'm working on something helpful to others that keeps me in my current job. So me, it's like a really close-knit type community at work that keeps me in my current job. And the fact that I have friends outside of like engineering as well, there's like, it's really nice to have like other women that I can talk to that are in engineering as well, but outside of engineering. And I think creating a community at work really helps with making people want to stay, and the ability to like do lots of different things. Like I am really shit at keeping to my job role anyway. But yeah, I do get the opportunity to try lots of different things.
I think that community and the supportiveness is really important. I think it's really critical that we don't let our own guilt get in the way of our own opportunities, whether that is guilt of other people leaving or guilt of leaving and leaving other people behind. It's fair to say, actually, that, when people leave, it can create opportunities for you internally. Certainly when I became test lead at my supermarket, it was because people above me had gone, and it had opened a position up that I felt well positioned to push myself into, which I did. And some of the best managerial advice I've ever had from one of my managers was someone who told me recently that his job was, it wasn't to keep me at that company. I'm not being held hostage. His job is to make me the best person that I can be. And if that means opening up an opportunity somewhere else, so be it. He's done his job well. And so I really applaud people who look to, advance the careers of people underneath them, even if it means going somewhere else.
That always used to be my thing when I managed testers. Like, I want you to be able to go and get paid a shitload more after you've finished here. Like, I want you to get so much experience and be so shit hot that, like, you're going to get a massive pay rise.
You want to work with people who are way too good to be working where you're working.
Hell yeah.
But they're happy to.
Yeah, that's a really good call, Sanj. I love that. Yeah. It's painful at the moment. Your friends might be leaving and you might be getting a load more work, but you can use it as an opportunity to renegotiate your role. And that's important. So yeah, like have a read of that article. It's got some really great advice. And yeah, like Great Resignation, it's hard on the people that stay. So if you're going through that, sorry.
Hang in there.
Hang in there.
Yeah.
News Bytes.
This week's news bite from me, a reminder from the world of security to check whether you're aware of what files you're committing to publicly visible code repositories, after it was revealed that thousands of public GitHub projects contain a file which Firefox uses to store cookies. If you were to grab one of those files and put it into your own Firefox profile directory, you would then be able to jump into authenticated sessions as that user for the lifetime of that cookie. These leaked files were identified by using what's commonly known as a Google dork, which is a search string designed to find information which should never be returned. I actually had a brush with fame myself a few years ago when I found a Google dork on Trello, basically, which showed people who were using Trello to store lists of passwords. You literally, search Google for, site equals Trello and word password, see which boards come back and go, oh, one of these people know that stuff is publicly accessible. GitHub has so far declined to intervene, asserting that it's down to customers to protect their own credentials, which is weird because GitHub does have a bunch of what they call secret scanners in place. I wouldn't be surprised if this cookies file were added to its list of alerts soon, but in the meantime, best check that you haven't got any files called cookies.sqlite in your codebase.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I remember the Trello thing. That was hilarious.
Yeah. It's madness. I mean, I think there's more awareness these days of what information is public, but sometimes, you create something, you share it with someone. Does everyone that you're sharing it with know that this is public? And the answer is maybe not.
So Apple has been advertising people's apps without necessarily telling them. And why is this bad news? So in the last few years, there's been a lot of scrutiny placed on Apple around their dominance of payments on the App Store and also the cut that they take from apps. So thanks to a slew of court rulings in the last few years, we're now in a place where users can make payments for usually less outside of the App Store, but may not be aware of it. So devs are only recently legally allowed to tell users about that option. App Store purchases more of a cut for Apple, of course, and outside Apple don't get any of that money. So they've been talking about, they've been taking out ads, advertising other people's apps and funneling those users through their own Apple purchase journey so that they get the money instead of the app owners getting the money outside of the platform. Apple themselves, Apple have released statements saying that they've addressed this and that it's standard practice and that it regularly communicates with developers about it. So, at least a little sneaky.
Hang on, Sanj. I totally missed that you could now legally tell users that they can pay for your app outside the App Store. When did that happen?
It was very recently. We'll post a link in it.
I assume it's part of the whole fallout around Fortnite and Epic Games and the fact that they were trying to push people away, and there were various court rulings around that front that basically said everyone loses. I think this is one of the fallout for that is actually, this is actually legally unshaky ground now. You're allowed to do this.
This is amazing because, we had to change things within our app, as you always bloody have to with Apple. I had no idea about this. This is amazing. I'm going to take this back to work. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, massive. We are not lawyers. Strapline.
Yeah. We're just having a guess at stuff here. We're not really special experts on anything.
No.
The Wash Up.
There we have it. Another episode in the bag, or the can, or the wherever it goes digitally, the hard drive, I guess. Another episode in the hard drive, or in your earbuds. We've got, as we had said at the start, there are 2 more episodes coming up before the end of our first season, effectively. Next week, it's the all stand-up episode. So it will be just like the stand-up section, except stretched out to a long episode, so we can talk back and forth a bit more about what's going on in our lives. And we'd love to hear from you about that as well. So do drop us a message, either type us something on Twitter or reach out to us on other platforms, send us a voicemail or a video if you have to, and we can pull the audio off it. We'll find ways to make it work. We'd just love to hear from you. And then there's going to be a retro episode after that where we talk about what's gone well in terms of our lives and the podcast and how we're going to change things going forward before we start again in January. But until then, on we go, and look forward to speaking to you all next week.
Yep.
Cheers.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Tech Team Weekly.